wamesikia. Nadhani hatutaweza kuendelea sana kwa lugha ile ya Kiingereza, lakini kama unatusikia tufahamishe ni yapi ambayo yanaendelea kwa sasa kwenye ukumbi wa Bomas.
Asante sana Swale Mdoe, pia anajulikana kama Babu, and we are here at the Bomas of Kenya where the waiting continues. 5 days and counting. We're actually getting to the tail end of the 5th day. And I'll be honest with you, it's been a bit quiet inside that auditorium, just behind this studio where we are at. The last time IEBC Commissioner stood to give a sense of how many returning officers' documents they have processed from X number of constituencies was actually about 5 or 6 hours or so ago. So we expect when they do step up to that podium to make those announcements, it could be a lengthy one. One of the agents had informed us that at least 40, if not more by now, Form 34Bs, brought here by returning officers had been cleared by the agents and the IEBC staffers, or more specifically by the IEBC staffers, overseen by the agents and observers here as well. But we know that by our last count, about 182 results from 182 constituencies had already been validated, verified, and read out. 109 was the magical number to get to the 291 constituencies, and the wait here still continues. And in terms of numbers, of course, the wait here mainly is for that presidential declaration that everyone's waiting for. But 16,105 candidates are the ones who threw the hypothetical, the proverbial hat into the ring. They were looking for one of the 1,879 positions. A majority of those have been filled by now. Of course, we're still waiting for final results from places like Narok and a few other places. We've actually been informed that the Narok County Tallying Center has been moved here to the Bomas of Kenya because of chaos that had broken out at the Masai Mara University where the tallying center was. We'll give you more details on that as soon as we have that. But by and large, a majority of the 1,879 positions filled, but the presidential one is the one everyone is waiting for. And I have some here who are also keenly following the activities here in their various roles for the organizations they represent. I'm joined by Koki Muli, who's an observer here. Koki, thanks so much for making time for us again. I know you are on the other side in our studio a bit earlier on. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And I'm also joined by Sam Kona, who's a commissioner with the NCIC. They are playing a very key role at a time like this, and I want to get their reflections from Tuesday up until today. And hopefully you can get a hint to some of their preliminary findings, but the official report, I doubt, is out yet. Koki, let me start with you straight away. Day 5 at least seems to be progressing rather more smoothly than yesterday or the previous days. What do you think changed? From what we saw yesterday?
Thank you very much, Wahiga. I think what changed is when the commissioners reduced the numbers of people who were in the auditorium and who were actually trying to sort of slow the process through attempting to participate in the tallying themselves. So the reduction of numbers to the bare minimum, representing agents, media, and political parties was a good move because you can see things are moving fast. And also the change in the approach by Chairman Chebukati, by having the returning officers pass through him and then go to the desk. It's fastened the processing
when they report
of the returning officers.
Pass through, what do you mean by that? They first sort of report to him before?
You saw last evening, most of last night, that they had returning officers making a queue so that they report to him. He's the returning officer.
That's right, national returning officer, yes, that's correct.
So it is clear that instead of going first to the technical people, the ICT people, so they go to the chairman, and then the chairman will authorize them now, approve, sign, authorize them to go to the technical people, to the ICT people to now proceed with the tallying. So that has made the process move a little faster because some of the returning officers had been sitting in Bomas for quite some time.
Literally the last 3 days is what we're told, and I imagine how frustrating that must be.
Tiring.
I know you have some reflections and some concerns about some of the vote trends that you've seen. We'll come back to that, but let me allow Sam Kona to give in a word. He's a commissioner with the NCIC. A crucial time for a commission like the NCIC to be playing the role that, taxpayers and the Constitution sets them out to play. What are some of your findings? I know you deployed teams across the country, prior to Tuesday as well. Anything that you can share with us right now on what they saw and heard and observed?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think as a NCIC, we are very much impressed by the behavior of Kenyans during this particular period of voting itself, and also since Tuesday as the counting continues. You are right, NCIC, we have deployed 71 monitors across the country, and also through our partner Interpeace, we had another 170 who are also deployed alongside the 71 for NCIC. And before I say what has come out from that observation, what we can say is that as a commission, we want to thank the Kenyan people for remaining calm during this particular period, for also heeding the call as we are doing our election bill and normal campaign with different entities who are saying, cast your vote and then go home. Kenyans obeyed that, and that is why we've not seen any disruption of peace across the country. Even in instances where in the past you will expect Kenyans to react because of a certain behavior of certain groups, we've not seen Kenyans rising against each other. And we want really to thank the people of Kenya, to commend them, and to encourage them that even going forward, as we wait for the results to be announced, they should maintain the same calmness, the same care for their country, and also not to be disrupted by actions which, like what we saw yesterday here at Bomas, those kind of actions can actually be disruptive to peace. And I'm glad, even despite that happening last night, we do not have any incident in Kenya that was related to that particular incident. And for our political leaders, particularly party representatives who are now here at Bomas, the focus of the nation now is at the Bomas of Kenya. And what happens inside there, especially in terms of the behavior of political leaders and party supporters, is very crucial in terms of how the mood of the country is. So we also encourage the leaders to maintain the political decency charter that they signed, to remain civil to each other, even as they haggle around results and whatever it is. They should not do anything that might jeopardize the peace and stability that currently exists. From our observers, what we've been able to get from yesterday is that most Kenyans have started beginning to go back to their normal activities, whether it's opening their businesses, going back to their normal daily activities. There is a positive and steady return to normalcy across the country in terms of people who had left, people who had closed their businesses, and so on and so forth.
But one cannot deny that the longer it takes for the final result to be declared, the more tense some say they are feeling. And I would have hoped that today the NCIC would have issued a powerful statement in line with what the Catholic bishops have done and other organizations on a day like today.
It's definitely, for people who have, elections are very emotive, and there are people who have invested in these processes in terms of campaigning and casting the votes for their supporters. There is no doubt it's an anxious moment for Kenya, and that's why we are calling upon, even as we exercise that anxiety, we should always remember that any act that can affect our relationships as people, and also anything that can threaten the peace of the country, it's our responsibility as citizens to make sure that we maintain it. It is also important to underscore the fact that the next phase, as you notice, NCIC, we've been following this election process in our messaging according to the phases. This phase of counting and also the actual declaration of results is a very delicate one, and that's why we want to encourage all groups, including the ones that you've mentioned, to keep sending messages of tolerance, of togetherness, of calm across the country. And whereas it is taking long, I think it's good to tell the Kenyan people that in terms of the legal requirements, IEBC has until midnight Tuesday to declare the results. So the longer it takes, I know it becomes problematic, but at least they should trust the fact that IEBC are doing the much they can. And as a matter of fact, since they started counting, they have made adjustment in terms of increasing the number of people, in terms of reducing the period during which they verify the papers. So Kenyans should just know that the deadline for IEBC is midnight Tuesday. That is illegal.
To tell them to hang on a bit longer.
They should just stretch their patience up to when IEBC will announce the result.
Okay.
Because even if they don't, still IBC will announce the results when they are ready.
No, that's correct. And I'll come back to you to talk to you a little bit about some of the findings from some reports, one issued by Kenya National Commission for Human Rights and another one by IPOA, as we look at possible catalysts for tension and what lessons we can learn as a society to ensure that in future polls, whether a general election like this one or by-elections, we minimize where tension could flare. But Koki, coming back to you, the question that many keep asking is, and for you as an observer, did you in any way think that on Sunday evening we would still be waiting for results? And also, what are some of the trends? I've seen you've got lots of numbers there. You've been here doing almost 12, 14-hour shifts, trying to put the numbers together. What are some of the patterns you are noticing? And maybe we could actually start there.
Yes, thank you very much. One of the things that I have noticed that is actually worrying me a lot is the high number of rejected ballots. Like, for example, I was looking at Teso North in Busia. They have 937 rejected ballots. That is a lot of rejected ballots. And let me just show you other examples. I started seeing this trend, actually, from when the first announcement was done.
And as you're looking for that, a rejected ballot is one which cannot be counted due to improper marking by the voter. So, for example, if your ballot has more than one mark, or where the intent of the voter cannot be ascertained if your mark crossed between two candidates, or the voter can be identified by their mark, where maybe they put their name or their signature instead of a tick or an X, just for further understanding of the rejected ballot.
Yes. One of the things I saw, and I will relate this to the observation on the ground, because I started where I was observing, in the areas where I was observing, I noted that most of the rejected ballots were the voters marked, the intention of the voter was clear, for example, because they either mark on top of the head of the person they want, they tick the head, or they tick, like, for example, one voter.
But it is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate,
yes.
But it is clear what their intention is. Because, or you mark inside the box, then you start, the tick starts in one box, but it just goes slightly outside the box. But you can see clearly the intention of the voter. And that's why we were saying, like, in many places where we are observed in this country and other countries, when it is the intention of the voter is clear, that ballot is accepted. Of course, the high number of rejected ballots is indicative of inadequate or lack of voter education. A lot of people I noticed where I was, they didn't actually, even educated people, they kept on asking, okay, I know how to read and write, I can see what I want, but where do I put the mark? And people kept on asking that throughout. And I imagine the people who didn't ask that for fear or for whatever other reason.
The kind of mistakes they probably made. The kind of
mistakes, and we saw them during the counting. Like, and I was giving example, Teso, in one constituency, you have 937 rejected ballots. I mean, in Lurambi, Kakamega, one constituency, 763. In Lamu, I saw in Lamu, and I was thinking, Lamu is a small, Lamu East with 22,000 registered
voters,
14,000 valid votes, and then you have 436 rejected ballots. In Kitutu Masaba, 738. In Nyando constituency, 408. In Siaya, 335. In Kisumu East, I mean, all these places, Boni, in Makueni, 449, in Thiwa, in Homa Bay, 680 rejected ballots.
So I've actually tried to do some rough mathematics. If on average there were 500 rejected ballots per constituency.
Yes.
We have 290 constituencies.
Just 10. 10, that is 5,000.
10 that you've counted there so far. So
it's more than 10. It's more than 5,000.
It is possible that we have at least 145,000
most certainly
rejected, if not more, rejected votes.
Actually, that's what I've been observing, and I've been circling every time the commission has announced this.
You're very keen.
I circle, and because it's worrying me. In a very close election like this one, any vote counts. And therefore, if you have more than 100,000 votes that are rejected ballots.
These rejected votes could have made the difference in this
yes,
poll.
Absolutely.
Sam, coming back to you, that's very interesting, Koki, and I'll come back to you to interrogate more. So one of the things that we are seeing here are some of the reports, and Sam has about 25 years experience or so, Sam, in conflict resolution, and some of the things that you've been involved in, both public and private sector. Yeah. What are the lessons that NCIC learned in 2017 during that very tense general election and repeat election and fresh election, so, you know, that have informed the strategy around what to do this time as a commission to ensure that temperatures are diffused, you know, before boiling point, as people really await presidential results that have taken longer than was expected?
Yeah, one of the lessons that we learned is to start early. As you noticed, NCIC, we launched our election bill and norma roadmap in December 2020. And since then, we've been implementing activities geared towards this particular election, and even after elections. So that is one important thing, that lesson that we've learned, that you must plan, prepare, and start doing the work you are doing early. Number two, we learned that you need to empower the citizens so that even as the political temperatures rise or politicians come and compete for votes, the citizens still maintain their civic duty of ensuring that they cast their vote, they exercise their freedom to choose the candidate they want, but also to resist any form of political manipulation or exploitation by different groups. And that is why, through different peace caravans and different peace messaging that we had across the country, we were targeting the citizens. Where the politicians were is where we were. If they had a roadshow, we had a roadshow. If they were talking to the people, we'll tell the people what is expected of them at every phase of the electoral process. And that, to me, is the third lesson, that for citizens, you will not talk about having peaceful elections when it is about voter registration. So even during the time when they were doing the review of registers, we had a message that was geared towards the citizens at that particular phase of the electoral cycle. And we were actually telling them, as citizens, if you don't go to cast your vote, you will be contributing to factors that might threaten to peace, because voter apathy or groups that do not exercise their vote might be the ones that can come and create problems later. So those are the lessons that we've learned. But also we know that in every election or in every political process, you can never really predict the outcome. And that is why we proceeded, apart from our media monitoring unit, which is manned by almost 100 staff at the moment, getting information from across the country. We also said we should also plan for the worst case scenario. And that's why last week we launched the Eminent Persons Mediation Panel for the country nationally. So for a group of Kenyans, that panel is convened by Ambassador Francis Mudhaura and has serious Kenyans who have been in this process, so that in the event that there is disagreement at the national level, you have people who can reach all sides of the political divide and tell them to come to dialogue. We have similar structures at the county, sub-national level, which are replicated there in anticipation of worst case scenario in the event that something happens. And when you talk about triggers, election triggers are usually very difficult to determine. But where we are now, as we do the counting, an incident like yesterday that happened here at Bomas could actually escalate to be a trigger.
If we are not careful.
And what we are happy as a commission and all the stakeholders that have done this work of peace for the last 1.5 years, talking about peaceful elections, we can attribute that to the fact that Kenyans understand that the politicians can disagree on the floor of Bomas, but that disagreement need not be transported for neighbors in any part of the country to disagree or to rise against each other.
Okay.
That to us is a critical.
Okay.
Second one,
I want to hold you there because I do need to take a break. When I come back, I'll allow you to clarify that point, complete it, and also we'll talk about two reports that we've seen, one from Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, another from IPOA, even as we await your report as well. Well, this is Kenya's Choice 2022. We are live from the Bomas of Kenya, the National Tallying Center. I was just getting some thoughts from Sam Kona, Commissioner with the NC NCIC, it's a busy period for them as they monitor possible flashpoints across the country, as their media monitors, their observers continue keeping tabs on what's happening in different parts of the country, and they are also stationed here as well. And I'm sure you got a glimpse of what happened yesterday, and they are concerned that the political class also must play its role in keeping the temperatures cool. We're also discussing election trends with Koki Muli, an observer. I think she spent almost 14 hours here really trying to understand some of the numbers that the IEBC is announcing as the IEBC takes a different tangent this time round in how they are handling the results announcement here at the Bomas of Kenya. We take a short break. We'll be right back. Kenya's Choice 2022 continues on the other side.
You are the leader in air and ground ambulance services. 60 years seems but another sunrise. We excel in speed of response, peace of mind, and quality of care by giving you affordable Maisha Medical Evacuation Plan. For as low as 2,500 per year, you have access to unlimited air and ground medical evacuation services within Kenya. Amref Flying Doctors, we are there for you. We go where no one else goes. Call 020-699-2100 or log on to www.flydoc.org.